Is the screen visible and the voice audible? Yeah. Question is, what are different servlet scopes? Suddenly, what is this? Assume it is some office. Assume some office. One employee is there, another employee is there, another employee is there. So many employees are there. One person came to office, approached, assume this person. The request of the customer or client is a complex request. Only one employee cannot solve it. May pass on to another fellow. So, first employee received the request, did some portion of the processing, and the remaining portion of the processing sake passed on the control to colleague. But finally, client problem or user problem solved. But first employee, second employee together, sometimes if the request is complex, multiple employees only can solve the user problem. But certain data they have to share. Without sharing of data in the company or in the department, they cannot address the issue, please. This is called inter-employee communication. If the client request is a simple request, only one fellow can attend. Then there is no need of sharing of data. But if the request is a complex request, only one fellow cannot attend that customer request. Multiple employees collaborate, associate one another, associate one another. Good. So please remember, multiple employees together only can attend the client request. If in such case, in the department or in the entire office, some data to be shared. So here, what are different servlet scopes? whenever a client request is a complex request, whenever a client request is a complex request, comma, request processing may involve multiple servlets or a client requesting for or requesting multiple times. Okay. In such cases, a servlet should be able to share data among multiple servlets. So, in the department, between the employees, without sharing the data, they cannot attend the client request. Here also same concept. Okay. Whenever data sharing in a web application is the requirement, we will have the concept called servlet scopes. Okay. There are three servlet scopes. Number one, request scope, session scope, application scope. Please remember, any developer, any project, data processing is important concept. Data processing. If you want to process data, data should be stored in memory. How to store, how to retrieve, how to share, all these are important concepts. Okay. Very good. So there are three servlet scopes. Question is, what are the different servlet scopes? There are three servlet scopes. One is called request scope, another is called session scope, and one more is application scope. Okay. If data is stored in, okay, request object, it is said to be in request scope. Request object if data is shared, are stored. Now the data is in which scope? Request scope. If data is shared in HTTP session object, it is said to be in session scope. So you have to remember request object, HTTP session object. If data is stored, if data is stored in servlet context object, if data is stored in servlet context object, okay, it is said to be in application scope. Meanings and clarity comes in the coming sessions. Okay. But totally three objects. Request object, HTTP session object, servlet context object. If data stored in servlet context object, just a minute, please. Yeah. No, just I uploaded the notes, nothing else. Monday notes, I did not upload actually. So I uploaded now. Let us come back. What is today's story? What are the different servlet scopes? How many scopes are there? Three scopes: request, session, application. If data stored in request object, service method first argument request object only. Na? If data stored in request object, then we say that that data is in request scope. If data stored in HTTP session object, when HTTP session object, it will come. We say that it is in session scope. If data is stored in, servlet context object, there is one object called servlet context. Then we say that data in which scope? Application scope. So that is the point. Okay, very good. So how many servlet context objects are created. One per web application. As soon as the Java web application is deployed. Deployed means installed into web container. Okay. Servlet container creates servlet context object. So now I'm talking about servlet context object. One online Java project is there. You deployed it, you loaded into server. As soon as you loaded into server, immediately servlet container creates one object called servlet context object. Okay. Servlet context object is available to all the servlets of the application. Global memory area, like if there are 10 servlets in the project, every servlet needs common data. The best place to store is store in servlet context object. The moment data stored in servlet context object, the moment data is stored in servlet context object, it is in which scope? Application scope. Okay. In the office, a common almara, like there is one government office, 10 employees are working. So one common almara they keep in the hall. Any employee wants to store some common files, they dump into that almara. So like that, like that. So now the discussion is, what do you know about application scope? Simple. Scope concept is discussed only when data sharing is the requirement. All the servlets of the project, they want to share the data in common in a central place, like then the data should be stored in servlet context. How many servlet context objects are created per project means only one. Over. When the application is unloaded, then this object is destroyed. Okay. Servlet context object is destroyed only when the application is undeployed or the server is shut down. That's all. As of now, servlet context story. How many request objects are created? One per client request. For example, online result. Assume online result. Okay. At least by now you should have an idea. Whenever you want to give an online result, you have only one servlet for the entire project. Public class result servlet extends some servlet. Okay. Now tell me, we write some service method. First parameter request, second parameter response. 1 lakh students are there. One student requested. Control comes to this servlet now, service method, one request object created. And result is given to the student back. It is known as request response cycle is complete. Then the request object is dead. So tell me, how many servlet context objects are created? One for the entire project. But how many request objects? If 1 lakh students send the request for online result, 1 lakh request objects created. No doubt at all, believe me. No doubt. So, how many request objects are created? One per client request. Servlet context objects, how many created? One for the entire project. How long servlet context object is available? Until the application is up and running, it is available. Once the application is down, context is down. What is the lifetime of the request object? What is the lifetime of the request object? Once request response cycle is over, request object is destroyed. This is very, very important concept, please. You may be feeling, why am I answering all this? But no. Tell me, if 1,000 students requested the website for online result, means 1,000 request will come from client to server. Therefore, how many servlet request objects are created? 1,000. What is the lifetime of request object? Entire project lifetime, they will not be there. Request came from browser to server, response goes to browser. What is one cycle? From the client, request came to server. From server, response goes. Response goes. Assume. Now tell me, what is complete? Cycle is complete. So once the response is given to the user, server to browser response goes, we say that cycle is complete. So tell me, when is request object created? How many request objects are created? What is the lifetime of the request object? This clarity important. Tell me, when is request object created? Only when the client request comes. When is request object dead? That client is served with the response. The result student has got the result. That's all over. The cycle is complete. Request object is dead. The lifetime of the request object is only one cycle, request response cycle. That's all. How many request objects are created? How many client request came? Those many. That's all. Now tell me, how many servlet context objects? Only one for the entire project, irrespective of the number of client requests. Whether one request or no request or 1,000 requests. Per project, only one servlet context object. That is the point. So how many request objects? One per client request. When is request object dead? once the cycle is complete. Request object is created when the client request is received. That's it. It is dead once the response is given. So I explained two objects. Servlet context object I explained. Request object I explained. And one more, session objects. Okay. There is one most important concept called session tracking. Mostly that should be the last topic in servlets. At that time, I talk about HTTP session object. Session scope I am talking, but I cannot talk about HTTP session object. Mostly 2-3 more sessions may be required to answer that. So that is why I am reserving explanation. Very good. Yeah, somebody is asking what is data source? In connection pooling, it will come. Connection pooling time, I will explain data source. Next week, I will explain. That's all. Now let us see one most important concept in web applications. Explain about MVC architecture. Explain about MVC architecture. M stands for model. Servlet request and servlet config objects are one and the same. Somebody is asking. No. Request object is argument of service method. Servlet config is argument of init method. Currently, servlet config we need not explain. Once upon a time, 1 decade ago, 10 years ago, okay, 4 months we used to teach servlets because every project only through servlets we were doing. At that time we were highlighting. Now servlet concept required. So config elaboration not required. Very good. Now the discussion is explain about MVC architecture. Model view controller. Earlier notes I was saying, what are the duties of a servlet? Capturing the user input, communicating with the database, processing of data, producing the response page, capturing the hall ticket number, sending the select statement to the DBMS, processing the data, producing the result page, handing over response page to the client, of course, to the web server. These are the duties. No, no. single fellow, why to do all the things like will not do. M is model. M stands for model. Not that model you think about. No, no, no. All right. V for view. C is controller. So three components are involved in attending one client request. So data processing, communication with the database. Why these many things only one fellow should do? Dividing. This is called clear separation of concerns. Instead of all the tasks done by one fellow, communicating with database and processing of data done by model. Output generation done by view. For which request control should go to where, like who will decide? That is controller will decide. Okay, so please remember, instead of all the duties done by a single servlet, one task, one fellow will do it. Okay, fine. A Java web application contains three different logics. Number one, flow control logic. This is also known as application logic. Data processing. Data accessing means from database only, and data processing logic. Data accessing and data processing logic. Another is called presentation logic, means output generation logic. It is most beautiful concept, please. But it will take some time for you to digest. Once I give you example, you will get very good clarity on the concept. Tell me, a Java web application has how many types of logics? Three types of logics. So one logic is flow control logic, that is also known as application logic. So try to understand this. What is the meaning of it? This is the client. One request came. From there, where the control should go. From there, where the control should go. Or from there, where the control should go. That should be decided, na? That logic is called flow control logic. To attend one client request, control should go to one component. From there to another component. From there to another component. So this is called flow control. Okay, so that is called flow. Without example, clarity will not come. But just remember. And in real projects, almost every request involves database communication and data processing. And the user expects a response from the user. No? Okay, so in MVC architecture of, actually it is a design pattern, people call it as. In MVC architecture of client request attending a client request. Okay. M means model, view means view, control. Three different Java objects. They are three different Java objects. Instead of one object doing all the things, all the tasks, they divided that. One concern, data accessing, data processing. One concern, flow control. One concern, output generation. All three concerns, why should one servlet only do? Let us divide and conquer. So generally people feel all the tasks, if one fellow does, it is great. Like, no. Lot of code duplication, unnecessary complexity, so many disadvantages will be there. Instead of servlet communicating with database, processing of data, producing the response page, let us divide. One object does some portion, another object does some portion, another object does some portion. All three colleagues attend one client request and user will receive the response. So what is model, what is view, what is controller? I can definitely tell you, if it is a Java project, model is one Java object, view is another Java object, controller is another object. All three Java objects. Okay. Data accessing and data processing logic are implemented in a Java object known as model. So now tell me, what is model? One Java object. Where from object comes, there must be a class now. So data accessing and data processing done in a separate Java class. That fellow is known as model. But MVC was old style, a bit old, very important, but a bit old. Industry thought, why data accessing and data processing? Why two things to be done in model? Let us divide them. Is a further advanced thing, please. Okay. At high-end Java project level, you will come to know model is further divided. Okay. So now tell me, what do you know about model? What do you know about model? One Java class or one Java object. What does it do? It does two things. What and what? Database communication and data processing. That's all. So data processing and the database communication. These two things done in model. Over. Actually, model is divided into two components. It is a bit high end for you. You may get confused also. But once you go to high end class in Java, you will enjoy this explanation. Business component. Okay. Business component. This is also known as service object. Number two, data access object. DAO. People call it as DAO. So please remember, in MVC, these two are not there. In MVC architecture, service object and data access object not there. After, so what is M1 Java class? How many things it will do? Two things. What and what? Database communication and data processing. No, no. It was old story. Let us divide that into two parts. Let us divide model into two parts. One is called business component. Another is called data access object. What does this data access object do? It will do only CRUD operation. That's all. It will not do data processing. Service object or business component, it does only data processing. It will not do database communication. Once upon a time, model was there. Now, that model divided into two partitions. One Java class, another Java class. One Java class will do only data processing. One Java class will do data accessing. So, if at all anybody asks you, even today model is there? No, not there. Okay, model is divided into two components, business component and data access object. Very good, very good. Another two more logics are there, na? Flow control logic, a presentation logic. Flow control logic, this is also known as application logic, is implemented in controller. Somebody asked you, what is a controller? Java class, Java object. What does it hold? Flow control logic. Whenever client request comes, capturing the user input, then to call which model, and to switch the control to which view, like that, it will decide the flow control. So what is controller? One Java class. What does it hold? Flow control logic. That's it. And a servlet acts as a controller as per MVC architecture. As per MVC architecture, who acts as the controller? Servlet acts as a controller. Then V means view. What user sees is view. A component that produces what user sees, that is called view component. Please remember, in MVC, till now I did not explain by using which technology M is developed. No. These are, you may feel I am hiding, I am not explaining, like not hiding. Please try to understand. MVC architecture talks about only view and controller. In advanced Java, M is developed using what? You cannot talk and you should not talk. It is beyond the scope. But once upon a time, you know who were used in as M? EJB, Enterprise Java Beans was there. Later, Spring Bean has come. Like Spring Bean is a specialized Java class. Enterprise Java Bean also a specialized Java class. These two are beyond our scope. Okay. So that is why I'm not much talking on that. Don't worry, don't worry. Somebody asked you, what do you know about MVC? Don't say M means model, V means view, C means no, no, no. It is one architectural style of Java web application. Instead of doing all the things in a servlet, some part of the logic implemented in a separate Java class, some part of the logic implemented in servlet, some part of the logic written in some place like. So dividing and conquering concept. Data processing and data accessing is done in the model. Okay. Flow control, capturing the user input, then to whom to switch the control, then whom to switch the control. All that is done in a controller. Okay. Now, what user sees is view. View component produces the view for the users. Okay. In a Java web application, a JSP is used as a view component. Finished. So all this explanation, just ignore MVC. You write one servlet, view, one JSP. One JSP acts as a view. One servlet acts as a controller. Model who? You should not ask in advanced Java because which is used as model, we are not eligible to talk in advanced Java. But in reality, a spring bean plus a DAO, they are used. Okay, fine. Now tell me, in MVC architecture, M does two things. What and what? Data accessing, data processing. What view will do? It will only generate the output. It will only generate the output. It will not communicate with database. It does not process the output. It will not receive the client request. It will not do the flow control. What is the duty of view? Only output generation. Only output generation view. So controller, flow control logic. So servlet is excellent in that. A servlet acts as a controller, a JSP acts as a view, and a specialized Java class, one special Java class will act as a model. As a model. That's it. Observe this. So this is controller. Assume controller. Yeah. So client request, always client request comes to whom? Controller. Client request. Who receives the client request from the container? Controller. But controller will not process the data. From controller, control goes to model. Control goes to model. Okay, control goes to model. What model will do? What model will do is data accessing and data processing. Model will give processed data to the controller. Processed data to the controller. Okay. So look at these arrow numbers. Arrow number 1. Arrow number 2. So arrow number 3. Actually, model will do what? Another database and all I can. But model is beyond the scope of advanced Java. Arrow number 4. What is arrow number 4? Output should be generated, na? So controller will never generate the output. Controller will switch the control to view component. View component. View component. Very good. So this is arrow number 4. This is arrow number 4. Last is arrow number 5. Arrow number 5 means view component generates the response for the client. Output generation is not controller's duty. Output generation, not the controller's duty. Data processing, not at all the controller's duty. Data accessing, not at all the controller's duty. Very good. So tell me, what is arrow number 1? This is important. What is arrow number 1? Controller receiving the client request. What is arrow number 2? Controller calling the some method or talking to model for processed data. What is 3? Model after accessing the data from the database, after processing the data, returning the processed data to the controller. Returning the processed data to the controller. So, which technology used as model? Spring being used, enterprise Java being used, or a distributed one, web service used. It is beyond our discussion, please, in advance. Okay, fine. So I recommend to take the picture of this. Screen. I cannot share this in the notes, please. Very good. View component a JSP. One JSP we write. Who is the controller? A servlet. A servlet is the controller. Observe. What is arrow number 1? What is arrow number 1? MVC diagram. Okay. I have written in the notes a MVC diagram means that diagram which you take from here. You take the snapshot of this. There you have to draw. Very good. Now the discussion is what is 1? Means in the diagram arrow numbers I am talking. What is arrow number 1? Controller receiving the client request. Client expects the output. Na? Controller will not process the data. Controller will not access the data. Arrow number 2. Controller asks the model for processed data. Model gives processed data to the controller. But please remember what model is doing. I have not drawn. Actually, model will communicate with the database, processes the data, returns the processed data to the controller. But I told you it is old architecture. New architecture is model is divided into 2 components. One is called business component. Another is called DAO, data access object. Why 2 things to be done? That is the weakness in this architecture. 1 is beautiful, 2 is beautiful, 3 is beautiful. But why model doing 2 duties, accessing the data from the database and processing? Therefore, they refined the model into 2 components, service object and DAO, data access object. But in MVC architecture, I should not talk about it. Next, what is 4? Tell me what is 4? Data processing is over. Processed data give to the user. Na? Sorry. Controller will never produce the output for the client. Then what it will do? What it will do is controller switching the control to the view component. That's it. 5. View component producing the response page for the client. Exactly, this is the MVC architecture, please. Okay. So, but there are, one website is providing 7-8 services. For which service? Controller should call which business method of the model. For the response, which view component control should be switched. Switching the control, that is the controller's duty. Traffic constable duty. Okay, so switching the control. So controller does not process the data. Controller should not access the data from the database. Controller does not produce the response page. Who will produce the response page? View component. But Whose duty to switch the control to view component? Controller's duty. That is arrow number 4. We'll do the example tomorrow. MVC example we'll do tomorrow. Some more clarity will come. Please. Fine. Yeah. So today, SERVLET scopes and MVC theory, I told. SERVLET scopes and MVC theory. Yeah. HTTP methods date not 20, it should be 18 actually. 2 times the same date I have given. Yeah. So with this, my teaching for today is over. You can ask the doubts, please. And I know I have to unmute you. Yes, please. You can ask doubts, please.
Sir,
Yeah.
Naveen here. Sir, thank you.
Yeah.
Sir, just when you get time, sir, the week 3 somehow we missing notes, sir.
SERVLET life cycle.
Yes, sir. Servlet life cycle and
So the
also
same day,
first,
anytime, the same day you have to get it, sir. But still, I will wait. I will see that now.
if you can see, if week 3, sir, week 3 resource is missing, sir. Week.
Let me just.
Sorry, sir.
No problem. We'll do it. Actually, it was not a part of my mistake only. Reason is I deleted 2, 3 times without viewing how many things. Yeah, this is the servlet life cycle, please.
Yes, sir. If you can.
Instantiation phase, initialization phase,
Yes, sir.
and servicing phase, destruction phase.
Yes, sir. This
Yeah.
one.
So this one, right? So what is the name of this file is web app notes 4. Now I am uploading just now in front of you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So in progress, select servlet life cycle and steps for web app development. Date I cannot write. Fine.
That was 1910, sir.
Yeah.
And one more was there. If you can find. Advanced Java.
Yes, sir. We'll do in the next installment. In the meantime,
Okay.
let people ask today's doubts. Then
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yes, please. Subject doubts. Yeah. Nalini garu, you are asking something. I need help. Can anyone help me? What is that? Any subject doubt or what?
Sir, in my system, program is not there. Is showing some database error is there.
Sir,
So
what is that?
database error. It is showing database error.
Sir, errors cannot be solved without system in front of us. You have to struggle, please. That cannot be a doubt, please.
That is not doubt, sir. That's why, sir, being in, I need help. If anyone help me, so
Like that you're asking. Okay,
yeah.
fine. Yes. Okay, you can take others' help, but not me. Right.
Hello, sir. This is Karthik.
Yeah, Karthik.
So, before that, before MVC, the all process is doing one object, right?
Yeah,
So it will take more time uh, compared to MVC,
not
like
time.
process.
For example, database connection we have to do. Data processing we have to do. Output generation we have to do. All the three things at one place if you do, if I am providing 10 services, you have to write all the different logics in each servlet of the project. It is not good actually.
Okay.
That's why we have to separate exclusively database communication and data processing in model. Output generation, servlet is weak actually. Servlet is not good at output generation. We were writing out.println, out.println. Writing HTML inside Java is not good actually. Okay.
Okay.
So servlet main weakness is output generation. So that is why output generation who is good? JSP is good. So for every client request, whether online result or balance inquiry or user anything, output to be generated by JSP, flow control is done in servlet, data processing and accessing done in model. Yes.
Yes, I got it.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
This is known as clear separation of concerns actually.
Okay. Yes, I got it now.
Any questions, please? Any more questions?
Hi, sir. This is Manas here. So, will you give any example related to programming example related to the request or
MVC.
application?
MVC. What, sir? What you're asking something? What example? MVC example you're asking?
No, sir. I was asking an example related to programming example related to the request and application scope.
A request scope tomorrow only will come because session scope also will come. Reason is in MVC only it will come, sir. Tomorrow itself will come. Reason is, observe this. What is arrow number 3? Arrow number 3 in the diagram.
Arrow number 3 from model.
Model
Giving
is giving process data to the controller. Na?
Yes.
What is 5? What is 5?
From view component.
View component giving the output to the client. But process data with whom it is? With controller only. Na?
Control.
Then controller will share that processed data.
Okay.
Controller will share that processed data in request scope and then switch the control to JSP. Tomorrow example, you will get the clarity automatically.
Okay.
Right. Any more questions, please?
Controller, as per the diagram, it is a servlet, right?
Exactly, servlet.
But model, we don't know. We will explain
We
tomorrow.
should not know, but I am telling you a spring bean nowadays. Spring bean.
Okay.
In advanced Java, we should not. It can be a web service. It can be a spring bean, like anything, please. That is beyond the scope of advanced Java.
Okay. Thank
But
you.
currently model is divided into two components. One
Hmm.
is business component, another is DAO, data access object.
Okay.
You will enjoy that in high-end class after advanced Java.
Yes. Sir.
Right. Any more questions, please?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, most. Any more questions? No more? So because no questions are coming, I'm just winding off. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.